to the board president also about the items, because we do have a lot of policies and procedures going through. And there was an ad hoc committee on gender and equity who did some work, and we brought forward, and I will turn it over to trustee Croninger, who can share because she was on that.
Well, we were an ad hoc committee of three, Peter, Robert, and I, and we met.
Someone wants to talk to us.
That way.
I don't see any hands raised.
No.
Okay, well, I see Liz there, but I didn't.
They were, you'll
There's
see a
nobody
hand
that
raised.
has a hand. I got it up here,
Okay,
so I can
Okay.
keep an eye on it.
sorry, much.
It's okay. So we met with faculty, staff, and students. Basically, let it be known that anyone who wanted to come talk to us about the issues of gender discrimination and respectful communications and related issues, please come. Yes.
Can everybody hear you? Can people? Okay. Go ahead.
Yes, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Okay. And we talked to a lot of people, actually. There were quite a number of people who wanted to come see us and talk. And then we did the report based on what we heard as feedback from all of those groups. And I think the report is there on the agenda with the suggested changes to board policies that we made.
Okay. I have a couple questions.
Yes.
So is the agenda, the meeting materials provided for agenda item 3.1 was to just give us an overview of some of the things your ad hoc committee executed and addressed?
We didn't address these because they never became changes in the policies.
We never finalized the changes.
Oh, so all of these revisions were never finalized
They were never finalized.
as it pertains to agenda item 3.1?
Yes.
Okay, could we, before we move forward with 3.1 materials that needs to kind of, I guess, be finalized or restart that process to finalize them, because I see there was a lot of work put into it as I read every single one of them. Some background as to why the ad hoc committee was created?
Primarily due to things that were going on campus at the time with a particular focus. The allegations of gender discrimination, people having trouble communicating and getting angry at each other. And so we were trying to address some of those issues that were pretty contentious at the time.
And that was the climate survey too, was part of that?
Climate survey hadn't happened yet. I don't think.
Okay.
So this ad hoc committee was formed during Dr. Beebe's term.
Correct.
It looks like.
Yeah, it was
Yeah,
quite a
so
while
that was
ago.
a very contentious time.
And so we were looking at things that we thought were missing or needed adjustment.
Okay,
I noticed in the first one, which relates to 7100 diversity and employment, see some of these overlap with the later versions.
Mhm.
Page 5, you can sort of see what the addition was because it's lighter, but
Mhm.
it's not in red.
No, it's that you added the one sentence you're talking, the commitment applies to all district employees, including part-time adjunct faculty and students. I like that. I like that because it actually aligns with what we were just talking about at our most recent board meeting
Yes.
and our recent training when VP of HR, am I saying that right? Denitris?
Technically interim VP of HR.
Okay,
We're working on it.
okay, interim VP of HR, how you provided that really great PowerPoint slide with all the disaggregated data. That's about our student employees. So I'm glad that we included this sentence. Okay,
Yeah, I mean, this was the basic that was a missing as far as we could tell, and we had complaints about that it was missing.
Okay.
Our part-time adjuncts, for example, are part of where we lack diversity. When you look at the big charts, that's a big chunk of where we have less diversity. But people felt, we weren't doing the same things that for those groups that
Mhm.
were for everyone else, and this was important.
okay,
And that was the first piece that they brought forward when I arrived, and then we started bringing the committee back together. And then you will see in the items that we've included,
mhm.
3.4, if you go to 7100.
Well, before we go to 3.4, I have a couple more questions.
Okay, can I point this
Yeah,
out?
okay.
first? Is that in 3.4, 7100
Uh-huh.
has more language.
Mhm,
added to it.
mhm, I
So
saw that.
now it's kind of this committee, where do you want to go? Would you like to go back to the ad hoc recommendation, or would you like to go with some additions or changes to the ones that we have in there? So that's why it's really good to have the kind of history of what was done, and then some of the work that's been done since to include things like equity, inclusion, and
Mhm.
racism. So,
Mhm.
okay, so now I just wanted to point that out. Now
Okay.
back to you.
Okay, so my other questions, going back to 3.1, I have a question about board policy 3420. So you have, I'm looking at the document that says draft item 1 for equity, employment, and opportunity.
Is there a page number?
What is the number 4 at the bottom of the page?
I think that would be the backside. Yeah.
Okay, so I was going to ask, my ask is, can we include the term student employees? So the first sentence reads out to the Board of Trustees supports the intent set forth by the California Legislature Shore made, I'm going on, to build a community in which employment opportunity is equalized and community colleges foster a climate of acceptance with the inclusion of faculty and staff. But I was thinking, are we allowed to add student employees?
I think so, and I actually thought of that today because, when we say and students, it suggests a broader group than what we're talking about with employment opportunity. It
So
could be student employees or student workers, yeah.
Student one.
student
Workers
employee,
or employees.
I like employees.
I like, yeah, workers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think student would,
Why was one perhaps, because student workers are only temporary staffing
Right,
at the district, so maybe it's all non-permanent staff, all temporary staff, all other employees outside of the faculty and staff classification, something that's all inclusive.
more-
Okay.
okay.
Professional experts
oh, here's-
as well, would fall into that category too.
okay, and then that would kind
Substitutes
of,
Also,
okay, so that covers, I'm okay with that too. I just want to make sure that that they're all included.
right.
Okay,
okay.
so temporary staff, you think?
I'm not sure if that wording is comfortable for everyone. But something that says in all other staff or any other employee.
Yeah.
In the
Any other
district.
employee, yeah.
Any other
Because they're still
employee.
employees regardless of the classification. that
Yeah, I tried
they're holding.
to keep it short and it was too short.
Okay,
Okay, and then I will also add, there is a revised version on the agenda also of that particular policy.
okay, okay. And then my next question goes to it is board policy 5130, and that would be page 6, Marcia.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, trustee Carmiger.
It's okay. 5130, yes.
Yes, so my question is, yes, what is that exactly? Oh, could you put, so referring to the second paragraph where is the font is in red? Can you give me, just because I'm a new trustee, I want to make sure I have an understanding, can you give me an example of what we're talking about here? So we're adding for student worker positions not covered, so we're using,
Employee, we can do.
right, we're using student worker here, so we might want to be homogeneous in whatever
Yeah.
term we, okay.
But, well, this is financial aid, so I don't think it would apply to our other employees.
Okay, but let me just get to my clarity about
Yeah.
what do we mean here? Because we're saying here for student worker positions not covered by federal work study qualified candidates with demonstrated financially shall be given. Okay. Can I get an example? What does that mean to be able to demonstrate financial need shall be given preference in hiring? Do we need to have an example or maybe a definition somewhere?
I wasn't here when this language was crafted, and I'm actually curious about that myself.
I think the thinking at that time was that it would be addressed through our financial aid program so that students who fill out those forms already have provided information about their financial situation. So you're not adding on except by.
So it's translated to the FAFSA. So they
Okay.
fill out the FAFSA
Mhm.
and then they get a number that notes their financial need. And the
Okay.
Financial aid office knows that.
Okay,
One of the questions that I have not researched on this, but I suspect it's probably fine, is can we actually do that?
right. Can we do what we're suggesting here?
Yeah.
Right,
I think we can, because they are given loans and financial aid based on their need. And so we will not work today on the financial aid policy. And so I would ask that in your next policy meeting, when you try to address this one, that we have Maureen Goldberg and Paloma have a meeting to talk about this.
But it seems like it would be clearer if we demonstrated financial need, if we put in there on the, what's it called, FAFSA?
Yeah, it's a fast, I'm sorry, yeah.
Yeah.
FAFSA
yeah.
FAFSA.
is
Fast.
financial aid, federal assistance, no.
Federal student assistance.
Seems like we should
Going up, I don't know
reference
that.
that, because I wondered too, how are we gonna know what their financial need is? So like maybe if you put that in there, then it would be very clear.
Do you think we should table this and come back to this to
I
make
think we'll
sure?
come back. This one isn't on our actual items that we're gonna address today, because I want to make sure you have financial aid involved before you go any further, and there's been several updates.
Okay,
No, that makes sense.
I tried to keep the agenda tight enough that you could accomplish getting through
no worries.
items.
There was also, well, I think that's correct. The reason the federal work study program is excluded was that the research we did said you can't do it there.
Yeah, you can't.
Okay,
But they do the FAFSA, and I do believe they can get preference hiring based on their need. So
so we
I
just,
want to make sure you got that.
so from a legal standpoint, we want to make sure we're saying this correctly and we're not
Right.
breaking any government codes and then get the right language.
Yeah.
So we table it to come back to that. Okay,
And just so you know, we didn't think this up without getting complaints, basically,
Mhm.
students who were saying this was unfair.
They don't like it.
They weren't able to get a job when someone else who had more financial resources could.
right.
Oh, yeah,
Well,
right.
and-
Well, sure.
And our paperwork talks about that later on in the materials.
Yeah.
Okay, my last question as this relates to agenda item 3.1. I'm sorry, if you, were you done? Okay, cool. All right, so going to board policy 3430, and this is page 13. So my question is, this is the third paragraph is in red if you print it in color. So we're putting in the superintendent president shall also arrange for services of one or more third-party mediators. Okay. My thinking is, I like the term third party because that means something that's outside of SBCC, right? Do we need to add language like services of one or more third-party mediators / external investigation? Or is the third-party mediator is a one catchphrase that means everything?
The mediator concept is before something blows up and you are in a complaint and investigation that you try to resolve it. We did have several more discussions after this about whether or not to that kind of a program, and we had some cost estimates and so forth. And at the time, it was basically decided, this is more of an investment than we want to go with right now. So, it's a concept, it's still out there, but I think you'd also want to see from various viewpoints whether it's still of interest, because there was a fair amount of conflict specifically between different people going on at that time. And, you're trying to short circuit that by saying, hey, can we work this out?
Right.
Rather than getting.
Right, which is why I have the question, because sometimes if you're trying to avoid the investigation and do a mediation, you're still using resources within the institution, and because it may be a conflict of interest because you don't know what those variables mean, who's involved. So do we need to include language that is explicit to say third-party mediator and or external investigation? Or something like that?
Well, the investigation tends to come after the complaint as a term.
So may I at least speak
So-
to the practice maybe and help?
Yeah.
Because actually this policy's been updated since the old ad hoc committee. with
Okay,
the legal update. So just one that you need to know.
okay,
And two is that when we get a complaint now, what we've done, have been doing in practice, and it's in 3435 now, is we try to get mediation and we try to resolve the issue first. So Title IX investigator that we have, what we have done is restructured the complaint process so that when a complaint comes in, Linda Dozier, who is the Title IX person, gets the complaint and makes sure that, number one, that we've all, whoever was supposed to have seen it has seen it. And that could be the Vice President of Human Resources, could be the behavioral incident team. It could be Chris over in student life. It could be Title IX.
Security as well.
And security. So all of those avenues. So what she does is get it and make sure it ends up where it's supposed to be. And then she will, let's say we have a harassment or a complaint of discrimination or something like that that comes in, or a Title IX. What Linda does is she lets everybody know their rights, and the department lets them know their rights. So if it's an employee issue, immediately Demetrius gets involved. And we ask if they would be interested in mediation and working through the issues. In fact, there's just been a recent Title IX that was worked through by having mediation. So we sent Linda to mediation school, and so I'm sorry, what?
Is there a hand?
No. Not, yeah, so, no, I'm sorry, I didn't think there was.
Okay,
But
sorry.
we don't, so we have this sort of place now where things go
Mhm.
as part of, and it actually will kind of come through formally as the restructure in HR takes place. But we've been working at that process now because quite candidly, the way we were handling complaints had some weaknesses that we needed to strengthen. And between Linda, myself, and Demetrius, we have worked really hard to make sure that this is streamlined, that there is a mediation step in the process. And I believe it's already addressed in 3435
It is.
and should be addressed in 3430.
Okay, is this AB or BP, 3435?
It should be 3435 is AP that it actually states it in, and I'm
Okay.
not sure if it's in EP 3430.
I'm pretty sure it's in 3430 as well, the option to go informal. And Linda's been amazing this last year. And what that does is some things definitely need to be escalated, but it also allows us to resolve things at a lower level, a less informal level, something that actually supports, Kendra and I have been talking about restorative justice and being able to find a way for us to be collegial and professional with one another. Some things happen in there. So it gives us the opportunity to be able to address it at that level. So it's been nice to be able to offer that option and explain it to employees, because there's also a misunderstanding, right? That I do mediation, then that means no one's really looking into it. You're not taking it seriously. And that is not the case. It is just another avenue for resolution that can feel more comfortable, more personal.
Okay,
I like that.
so does that mean that this draft is obsolete because it's already been updated?
It's a little bit obsolete. I think we could keep that piece. But what needs to happen, and it's not on the agenda today to deal with, is we need to bring back to you the latest version. And I think you also, it needs to be brought with 3435, 3430, and I think there's one more that you should look at the same time. So it should be 3410, 3430, and then
3435,
and then 3433,
okay,
and then 3434. Oh, I'm sorry, AP 3434, because there's not a BP,
oh,
and then AP 3435, which is discrimination and harassment, which we have put a lot of effort
Yeah, I
into
think
during
it's-
my time here to fix it to be more. But I think they all have to be kind of looked at.
together, yeah. So you mentioned a lot of policies here. Are these all AP? So the 3430, that's AP and BP?
That's AP and BP. That
Okay.
is an AP and BP.
And then 3435, is that AP and BP?
That's a BP. I'm sorry, no, 35. Let me go through this again. BP 3433 is prohibition of sexual harassment under Title IX.
Got it.
And that actually there'll be some changes that Linda will be wanting to bring to you. So there's an AP 3433, an AP 3434, and an AP 3435 that is discrimination and harassment complaints and investigations, which we have redone since I've been here.
Okay,
And I would just also point out that there's some updates from the league as well, that we're in the process of incorporating through BPAP also
okay,
at this time, that for some legal updates that I know are really related to those. And I think 3435, Title IX has some changes that are expected in October.
and that's from the league. Okay, all right.
Those should all kind of come to you in one package together to review.
Okay. I'm as far as 3.1, I don't have any other questions other than, I like the language that I see for the materials provided in items 3.1.
There's one more element to it that I just think I can mention under student workers. I don't think I saw it in the other portion of the agenda language, but I might have missed it. And that was, wanted to support equal pay for equal work. There was complaints about that, people getting paid different amounts for different, for this same job. And the students who have earned 100 or more degree applicable semester units at the district are not eligible for part-time student positions. And that was in response to complaints that some students basically graduate and come back to get the job. They sign up for a class so they can get the job.
Which one are you referring to? Which,
This was page 8.
okay.
And
I have a general question, so
Yeah.
why don't you finish saying what you were saying?
well, that was also included in a concern about several students who are of all categories, but it was also mentioned with regard to international students who it's apparently a problem with their visa. We did not want to be in a position to be facilitating a visa thing that you were not supposed to do. So,
Are you referring to AP 7270?
no, this, in the first item, it's page 8 and it's new BP 7270. Maybe that's what you're looking at.
I'm looking at AP 7270,
What?
not
Oh,
B.
we have BP.
BP.
BP, AP is on the agenda and BP is in package that Monica for this from.
Yeah.
I don't. Yeah, I don't, that was in the agenda? I don't have that.
Page 8
Page 8 of the first,
on 3.1.
the 3.1 handout.
Okay, maybe I didn't print it.
Anyway, those were what we wanted to do.
So BP
My
72.
question is, these APs and BPs, are they like consistent throughout the community college system? I mean, it seems so silly for every single college to be making their own. Why?
We have a service, so we subscribe to a service that actually provides us a template. We get templates in the fall, in the spring. And that's what Vice President Lewis was just referring to a minute ago. So they give us a template. And then the college, and I will say this because I've worked in enough districts now that I know it. Often the board wants to customize
Sure.
theirs to more of their community and some of the things that are going on at their college. And so that is the board policy section. And then the APs, they also give us a template for. And then those go through BPAP and they are sort of the operating procedures that the board sees but does not approve. So you approve the board policies and the administrative procedures come through. So you get a template that is usually, I don't think I've ever had one not be legally compliant. And they are well researched by Lieber Cassidy and Whitmore. And so then we can alter them. But what I like to do is if we alter them very much is I like to take them back through our attorney to make sure that we're not doing anything that's going to get us in trouble.
So the templates, do they come from the league or do they come from the chancellor?
They come from the league service. It's called the policy service.
Oh,
And we pay what, $2,000 a year or something?
I'm not sure. It's well worth it, though.
Yeah, it is.
okay.
So more history here. We had a task force that updated the board policies somewhere around 2016 when Lori was here. And it took us 3 years basically to go through all the board policies. And we were working with some of the template language. And frankly, it was very frustrating because sometimes they get it wrong. You would look at what they were citing for what they were saying we should put in the policy, and it didn't say that. The statute was different. They did bad research in several instances. So, we really went through these policies individually and talked about them and talked about why we have them and try to explain and the whole bit. And it was, just to give you an idea how long it was since the board had done this sort of thing, we had a policy that said something to the effect of this newfangled thing called the internet.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty bad.
A while ago.
Yes.
Well, we are moving in a good direction here as we are working on things that your ad hoc committee put together, some good stuff here. And it looks like some of it already came to fruition and we hope to continue to go in that direction.
Well, we try to keep, especially the relevant policies and procedures and the ones. 3435 was one that was causing us some real aggravation when I got here. It came up in Chancellor's office letter that was sent to us. So we worked on it. We got it in a much better place. And we are following it.
Okay.
It's a nice organizational system, even going through BPAP and the updates and having the chapter leads to help with the vetting and verifying of inaccurate information and being aware of legal updates and changes. This is another one of those things. It's truly a community effort.
Yes.
In order to ensure that we get it right. And I'm amazed you said you did it in 3 years. And since I've been here, we've been going through chapter 7, which is the HR ones through BPAP for the last 2 years and are still trying to make progress. So that's amazing. But I know our BPs and APs have grown. So I appreciate this committee too. I sat in when you all did the president one. So it was really good when that comes up.
Okay.
No, there's no doubt they need updating a lot.
So let's see if we can get some of these worked on today and get them out for approval, if that's okay. So now we've kind of gone through the history of the ad hoc committee
Yeah.
and the appreciative work. So one of the things that Trustee Everett and I brought back from a conference we went to was the actual creation of a board policy and administrative procedure, commitment to anti-racism, diversity, equity, and inclusion at the time. We worked on drafting a couple of board policy and procedure in our last meeting. These are where we left them. I would actually request that the board consider including accessibility
Yes.
in that because it really should be DEIA squared.
Yes. Yes.
So are we talking
Can I-
about BP 3000?
3,000.
Yes. Oh,
So that's the one that we brought back from the conference a year ago, the CCC conference. Joyce was working with us at the time and helped to work through trying to create a procedure and policy based on the one that was handed out as a draft at the conference we were at. So
well,
This is a new policy, right? New number?
this would be brand new.
We should put that on here.
Okay. And we'll note that. Amina, thank you.
So I have a question. Great work. When I was reading this, I was like, this is good. It aligns with resolution 18. And great minds think alike. I was like, can we just be homogenous across the board because we have anti-racism first. So we can just kind of have diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, and anti-racism so that our policies are all saying the same thing. And we're not recreating various abbreviations to say the same thing. That kind of drives me kind of insane. So, because right here we have the A before the DEI, but in our resolution 18, we have DEIAA. So my ask is, can we just
DEIAA.
yes.
We're with you.
Thank you. And then another thing is, I love the first sentence. I know we identify institutional forms of racism later on in the language of the document, but do we want to include the word institutional on the inside of the first sentence? I'm okay if either, we go with it or not, because I know we identify it later on in the language, but do we want to include institutional since we have systemic?
That's up to this group. This is where we're here to take your input and make appropriate changes.
Okay.
So,
I mean, it also aligns with the language that we utilize in resolution 18 as well. Another thing that I noticed, we're not mentioning anti-Blackness anywhere in here. Would we consider adding that in the language? And then letter B of number 1, do we want to include student employees, or your statement, Denitra's, other types of employees, whatever statement we kind of come up with to kind of catch all phrase?
Yes, I'd also like to consider that in some instances, saying all employees of the district
Okay,
would also keep us from separating the classifications,
okay.
which could be considered more inclusive.
So
in
that's
itself.
good. So we didn't put anti-Black
It's,
in
It's in there.
resolution 18.
it's in there.
Did?
Yes,
I think we did.
we did. I know we did.
Something.
Okay, well, you would know.
Yeah. And then, because right now for letter B, we have all board members, staff and faculty, so we don't speak to the other employees. Right? And so if we're gonna do that in, your, what were we talking about?
Okay, for-
The 3420 or 3430, one of those 30, do we want to be consistent and use that same language when we are referring to who are the people here at the district?
I think for me, I'm good either way. My thought is that on some of these policies, it shouldn't matter what classification you are.
Okay,
And that is kind of where I was going, but I do recognize that. And in some policies, the classification that you hold is important, right? That's the driving force for kind of what's available and decisions that are going to be made. But I think when it comes to equal employment, that is something that is imperative to everybody. So I don't see differentiation between classes in that one.
Yeah, I could see a difference between, I agree with you about the employment, but the idea in, I think you're looking at AP 1B, right?
yes,
Okay.
AP
3,000.
3001B, yes.
That all employees, and I agree with you about being consistent in our language.
Yeah.
Would reach hourlies and student workers and so forth, and I'm not sure you mean that.
Yes, and I'm also thinking and looking at something that was written a little bit earlier, that from your ad hoc committee, that there is a need for training for that group, and there's not really a focus on that right now either. So I think to then add them to this one would make a difference. So in this one, yeah, I would.
Okay, so which one are we working on? I just want to make sure which one we're making changes on.
So
1B.
So we're on AP 3000, and my first ask was the title, can we make
I've
this
already got that.
Perfect.
I've got the institution.
awesome?
I just want to make sure that we're also making the changes in here. As we jump around, I'm just trying to make sure we grab everything you guys are requesting. So that's all I'm trying to do right at the moment, is pull us back a second.
Okay,
And because Palmina and I are both taking notes to make sure that we grab everything that you guys are bringing up.
so on your second sentence, first paragraph, because your first sentence is really long, which I love. Second sentence starts with, we will implement practices and strategies.
Where are you?
The second sentence of the first paragraph,
Oh, you're in the AP.
AP 3000.
Okay,
That's the
AP
point. I gotta
3000.
make sure I know where you're at.
We would, third sentence. Okay.
The fourth line.
I'm sorry, yes, you're right. A third sentence. We will, and then it goes to what we're gonna implement. Can we add in the term anti-Blackness?
I think so. I think it would fit there.
So implement anti-Blackness practices and strategies that support racial equity and cultural.
Mhm.
Well, if you put it there, you look like you're modifying racial equity and eliminating all our other races.
Racial equity, culture, inclusivity.
Anti-blackness, racial equity,
I think,
running it all together sounds like you only mean,
Well, the thing is with anti-blackness is a form of colorism. It's completely different from racial equity because it's a social construct that impacts all races and ethnicities. It's not just a Caucasian and Black African-American, African descent construct. It impacts members from the Latinx community, members from the Asian community, members from the indigenous community. It's a social construct on pigmentation.
no, I remember that conversation that we had about that, and I don't have a problem with that definition, except that when you Google it, that isn't what you get. So in terms of language, I'm concerned that people read it differently.
Well, I did,
What I'm suggesting is simply if you're going to introduce it, you do it after support racial equity and anti-blackness, cultural inclusion.
I'm okay with if
It's
we,
still there.
yeah,
Okay,
I'm
so
okay with where we
we're
put it.
gonna put it, so. Let me make sure I got this. We will implement practices and strategies that support racial equity, anti-blackness, culture inclusivity, and dismantle racism.
you know, I kind of like the word you just used, colorism. I kind of like that word because when we say anti-blackness, to me, I immediately go to African-American or Black people. But
As
when
does
you say
Google.
colorism, it expands it for me.
Well, that's what anti-blackness is. It's a social construct and that is related to colorism.
Right, but
That's not
yeah,
what.
I'm just thinking about what it,
That's from your research background, but when I look at what the chancellor's office and the league has put out, and the use in the University of California universities, that's the definition that has been adopted. I can send you that information.
No, I'm not disagreeing with you. What I'm saying is that ordinary citizen Googles, what does that mean? They're not going to get that definition, at least not at the top of the list. So, you know, that may change, but I think the colorism expresses it pretty well. So that's just my thinking.
I have a question,
Yes, ma'am.
or it sounds like an opportunity, because you do have a definitions section, which is amazing. It's something that we truly need on campus, and maybe that's a definition that we plug in there. So now we
that's a good
have
idea.
What page
You
is the
know, the
definition?
definitions are start on page 5.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
On page 5.
Yes, yes. Yes, those, they look very familiar. These came from,
Defined for our campus.
Mhm.
So
Okay, so those are on what,
Page 5
of,
Page 5 and
of,
page 6.
of AP 3000. Page 5, starting, yeah, I'm just saying adding anti-blackness as a,
definition.
yes, adding the definition of anti-blackness.
I could send you the research that that came from the league as well as the UCs. Dr. Murillo, if you like. I kind
oh
of,
no, I'm just trying to listen. Don't need to be convinced. I would point out
if
that
we-
some of the Googling I just did actually puts anti-blackness and colorism in the same, like it's anti-blackness / colorism.
Oh, yeah, that works for me.
yeah,
Boston University does that as their, how's that?
I'm okay with that.
Yeah, that works for me too.
I liked that it was more inclusive and recognizes
Yeah.
the colorism issue, which we know is real.
Mhm.
Okay, so I'm gonna include anti-blackness / colorism.
I'm okay with
Okay.
that. Yeah, thank you. And then we're going to still come back to the student employees, or we not going to for this particular one, just for 1B?
We're getting down there,
Okay, sorry.
so we're
I'm moving
still
too
up on,
Sorry.
yeah, some of us have to type and make.
I'm
sure we get
sorry.
in there.
You had some language for that, Denitris. What,
Or 1B.
yeah,
Oh, but I was also looking at it from my perspective was a little bit different. When I was talking about being all inclusive and saying all employees.
Yeah,
This one, when it comes to the training, I think just because of some other things that we worked through, that it would be good to list all employees so that we can be very intentional with it. Student workers they're paid by the hour. And so that's something to consider. And how do we incorporate? They're also limited on the number of hours that they
Yeah,
can work.
19.5.
And being able, so
Mm-hmm.
some other things that will need to be taken into consideration. So I think if that is our intention, that we should just list them all to help reinforce that that's a commitment that the district is making.
So how would you like that listed then?
Um, I don't know.
So could it be full-time and part-time employees? I mean, and take out the staff and faculty and don't break it out by any group? Or should we?
so do we want the student employees to be receiving this training? Because we're gonna have to pay them for it.
We're making the other employees do the training.
Yeah, I know. So, but I'm thinking about what Denitra said, that, you know, they're limited in how many hours they can work.
19.5.
So, you know, this would,
They would be paid for their hours. that they
yeah, they'd
worked.
be paid for their hours, so.
Would that be a part of the 19.5 a week that they're only allowed to do?
It should be, yes.
My thinking
It
about
doesn't
this,
have to always be, but it should.
my thinking about this.
Yeah,
is that-
it's not gonna be fair if you're not getting paid for it.
Oh, no, I want them to be paid. I just, I mean, if we're making our other employees and they are an employee, it may not be a permanent employee, but and we're implementing this.
And maybe, and Kendra's looking at me, maybe it's one of those things where we say, student workers are provided a certain number of hours every year
Okay,
for something like that, then that way it doesn't cut into their 19 hours.
okay.
Oh, there you go. So my thinking about this is that, the student employees, they're wearing two hats, they're students and they're our employees. And so by providing them with this training, it's also educating them.
Yes, it is.
So it brings it even further.
Yes.
So I think it's important.
Yeah,
that we,
It helps, yeah,
And well, we're preparing them for the future.
yeah,
that
to be
they're
better
gonna Have to live in.
members of the workforce.
So, okay, so all board members,
So wait a minute, we skipped
We're on,
23,000?
no, we're still on, we're still on.
I'm on AP.
I know,
I know.
we kind of skipped.
Okay, well, we can go back to BP in just a minute. How about that? So let's finish this B thing that we're working on and then we'll go back.
So,
All board members, staff and faculty is what it says.
Uh-huh,
We could say all board members and all full-time and part-time employees. That
Including student workers.
including student workers.
I like it.
Okay.
But we have the word employees here. Do we want to use employees?
Rather than delineating out part-time faculty, part-time staff, part-time,
Can't we just say all
yeah, that's what I,
employees?
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I was trying to do.
Okay,
And then if we want to be really definite, we could say including student employees. So what's the difference between a student employee and a student worker?
aren't they the same?
They can be very similar. You have your federal work study, which is someone that is through the financial aid office, and then your student workers have to be enrolled in a certain number of units.
Yes.
And so that's how they're differentiated, and then the hourly workers don't have to be actual students of the district. And there is a preference for student workers, I think, over, someone coming in just hourly to help out depending upon the meeting.
So did I just hear you say we could have student employees who are not students?
No,
Oh, sorry.
No, student worker is someone that's gonna be enrolled at the college, and they're
Yes.
usually enrolled for, they have to have a minimum number of
I
units. that
believe
they're enrolled
six,
for.
six units.
It's the same, student employee and student worker is the same.
They are the same. Okay,
Yes,
that's what
sorry.
I was trying to.
They have to have 6 units either during that semester or be enrolled in the upcoming semester, at least 6 units.
Correct.
And they're allowed to do 40 hours a week if it's off season and they're not in semester. I read that somewhere in here.
Okay, that one I'm gonna have to double check on, because we usually don't let them go up that high, but I will double check on that one. That's the detail that's not always the forefront.
Okay, so my thing now.
I trust you.
All board
Okay.
members, all full-time and part-time employees, including student workers, participating in ongoing. I think participating in the college's committee. Okay, all right, so yeah, that's what I've got.
Okay,
You good?
I'm good.
All right, anything else on the AP?
The B one, could we have a
That
more
was-
ordinary word for praxis?
I like praxis.
Ordinary?
I like praxis.
I like this to be understandable to a broad range of people.
You know, I'm with you with praxis.
Yeah, that's a hard one for me, former faculty member. Okay.
But if we're on BP, in addition to that, BP, the changes we put here, we kind of need to put the same changes that we just implemented from AP 3,000. So like the title with the DEIAA.
Wait a minute, what's the difference between B and C?
You mean AP and BP?
No, I'm still in AP 3000. One.
I am too.
We have
Three.
B and.
Oh, I thought we
have
moved
C,
on.
and
I'm
trying-
sorry.
Well, trust.
So we have ongoing
wondering.
anti-racist and equity professional development, training, blah, blah, blah. And then we have racial equity trainings, equity training, and racial equity activities. What's the difference between B and C? It seems like it's the same thing.
So can we just go back before we deal with that one to praxis? Do you
Okay.
want to change practice or not?
What is it?
Praxis, this is where we, which document?
We are on B on 3,000.
Oh.
AP 3,000.
I did
And
not
we're
look that
still
one up.
on
What does it
B
mean?
And there's a word praxis in there?
It's praxis.
Oh, it's praxis.
Well, what is it?
This is higher education.
Well, I don't know what it means.
There's a lot of people who wouldn't know what it means.
That's why we got Merriam-Webster.
Well, I didn't look it up, so tell me.
The body of information that you collect and put together. Your praxis. It's like another way of teaching, but it's a body of information you
Okay.
identify
Okay.
as your research. So they're referring to in this sentence, training activities, each academic to further enhance your knowledge, your teaching, your praxis, so the body of
Okay.
information, your theory, your pedagogy, that could be a part of your praxis to dismantling. So what is
Okay.
your racism research,
Yeah, no,
arsenal
I get it now.
that you're
I
gonna
just didn't
use
know.
to dismantle systemic and structural racism?
All right.
Technical is action practice, practical application of a theory. So like when we are working in anti-racism, we're trying to apply what we've learned. So it's your policy and procedure on whatever you want.
Well, I prefer to use language that is more commonly known. I didn't know that
Okay.
word.
Well, what word would you like to use?
I don't.
I would say actions.
Evidence-based actions? Because actions can
It
be,
goes into
can be
Aristotelian theory if you look at.
actions can be non-evidence-based. Praxis leads me to, this is evidence-based. I don't want to get into the word semantic. I'm okay with actions. I'm happy with all the other changes we made, so I'm okay with the word actions.
Okay, I'm taking out praxis and I'm putting in action. And, okay, all right.
Now,
And now let's go to your
can
issue.
somebody tell me what is the difference between B and C?
Actually, the first sentence of C is pretty close to B.
Okay.
And the second sentence of, yeah, it actually is a lot of duplication.
So I would say, why don't we remove the first sentence of C? But the second sentence, to me, it's saying that the college is going to provide you with the infrastructure to get that training. For B, it's saying we expect you to participate in ongoing training.
Yeah.
C is saying, well, you want me to do this training. Well, how am I going to do this training? Well, we're putting the accountability on the college that we're going to provide you with that, as it states here, that infrastructure for the staff to access
Yeah,
that
that's fine.
training.
Yeah, we took out the first sentence and left the second. How's that?
How's that for you, trustee Starter,
That work?
trustee Croninger?
Yeah, except I have a broader question.
Okay,
I'm not real clear what we're doing here. Because first of all, I would think that requiring training would be a workplace issue that needs to be negotiated, not just in AP or BP.
We talked about this when we were writing the resolution that we did, the
Okay,
Black Lives
Resolution.
Matter resolution. We talked about that.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, there are pieces of it you do have to negotiate the pay piece. Demetrius, I saw you shaking your head, yes.
I was just agreeing just because of the infrastructure, and that's what I would consider is allotting the hours. Do we need release time for it?
It's
Compensation
the
for it?
implications of it.
The
It's not
impacts of
the
it.
actual. Do you require this?
Yeah,
It's
just how.
how it impacts.
well, yeah, I
the
mean,
working conditions.
and this relates to the D, which is Vice President of Human Resources to ensure compliance and tracking. And my question would be compliance with what? I mean, I would envision you can encourage people to do this, but you cannot require them to do this. And that in effect, by requiring everybody to do this, we are not welcoming to all people, because there is certainly a group of people who do not want to do this or agree with it.
well, then that means they don't align with the mission of the school, because this is part of the mission in our strategic plan.
No, our mission opens with we welcome all,
And our strategic plan,
where we haven't got a strategic plan yet.
but we have one that's 99.9% done, just with some word semantics that we're in the middle of, but we speak to DEIAA in our strategic plan.
Well, okay, so can I argue this on both of your places?
Okay,
So the statement that starts off on one is the college is committed to producing recognizable ... That's A. All board members, all full-time, part-time faculty or employees, including student workers participating in ongoing, and it doesn't say anything about required.
I agree. And I'm
And-
just saying, when you get to the last one that says enforce, that's
Then that's the one we
inconsistent
need to
with,
talk about.
that's inconsistent with encouraging, committing, all of
And
that.
that's the
stuff.
compliance issue. So that's
Yeah.
the one that I think is, shouldn't have the word compliance.
Where's the word enforce?
Yeah, and compliance is a little
D.
challenging. What I'm also thinking is with
It
the
doesn't
recent
say
changes in
enforce.
Title V that says that we're
Ensure
now evaluating
compliance.
on
That's
DEIA
basically
square
an
competence.
enforcement thing.
And then
Compliance
employees
with
are
what?
supposed to speak, are supposed to participate and need to be able to speak to this activity, and managers need to be trained to evaluate it. That there's going to be a compliance piece that's
There
gonna
will
come into play
yeah,
some kind of way.
Okay.
And I see Liz.
And I see Liz has a question, but yeah, that brings up that whole issue of the Title V. So Liz, go ahead.
Yeah, when you have a requirement, you have to have consequences. And some people, they don't take the training because they don't want to. They take the training because they don't have time to. We're short-staffed and a lot of people just don't have time to do the training because they're busy all day long.
Yeah.
So you just have to keep in mind when you acquire, And consequences is discipline, and that you would have to go into negotiations about. Just keep that in mind when you're talking about requiring.
Yeah, thank you. And that's the thing, we're not advocating require. It's a commitment of the board.
So
So
that means we're eliminating D.
well, I think you have to say something different in DD
Yeah.
until, but what Demetrius just brought up is really important. The chancellor's office may be rolling down, and this will have some kind of compliance
Mhm.
state. But right now, we don't have a compliance other than our evaluations. So right now, you don't have compliance, but you may in the future.
Yeah.
But I also still feel like we are, in general here, not welcoming to people who feel differently on these subjects. I don't know how to address that.
Didn't something just come out that we have to include? I can't think of the actual statement in our pedagogy. Was it pedagogy or?
When I was talking about the evaluations and how the DEIA squared needs the competencies have to be included in evaluation.
Right.
Employees have to be able to
Mhm.
self-reflect and managers have to be trained on how to evaluate, participate and
Mhm.
evaluate themselves. So I think also with training and even in your document, you list this, you're approaching it from a variety of perspectives. So whereas someone may not necessarily, I don't want to say they don't agree, because I hope that there's openness there. They may find something, a topic that speaks more closely to them, that they're more comfortable with, right? That they're not maybe necessarily thinking about Artero and going into brave spaces and being able to have, a conversation that you've never had in your life before. I think what I take from this is that the district has a responsibility to provide opportunities for a variety of diversity of training around these topics. And there should be something in there for everybody.
Right.
And
I
if
really
there's
like
not,
that. I
then
think we should write that
we
down.
missed a piece is what I think. So.
Well, I do think that we should struggle with a way to broaden it, because, I mean, seriously, we have a ongoing campaign for President of the United States in 2024. Not half, but a third of the country is not on this wavelength.
Okay, but we gotta.
So
get
there are
politics
some of
out
those,
this.
no, some of those people might want to come here. Some of those people do want to come here. And for us to say, no, this is not a place for you is inappropriate, I think. So what you're describing is, to me, a better way to get at that problem. So that you're not just saying, oh my God, here are the liberals pounding away, brainwashing everybody if you're, and here's Florida doing the opposite. And frankly, then we contribute to the divisiveness of the whole problem.
The thing is, it just came out that we're required to have it as a part of our pedagogy, and there's gonna be some level of evaluation from management.
Well, faculty as well. actually,
Right.
For all of our classes.
So it's not fair to not provide opportunities to get that training and that awareness. So to what Denitra said, there's going to be something for everyone. You may not believe in accessibility or anti-Blackness, but everyone has some form of implicit or explicit bias. And you want to know how you can identify your own implicit bias so that you're not putting that into your course content or how you engage with your students when you encounter people from different backgrounds. And so I say we keep D, but maybe change some of the wording. So instead of having ensure compliance, maybe ensure commitment to tracking.
Sure word, that's probably part of the problem, but I don't disagree with what you're saying. What I'm saying is there are people who would very much disagree with what you're saying. And that concerns me, that we would tell them they're not welcome. here. And a description of the kind of training that we offer that would suggest that there is something available for all points of view. I mean, there's a point of view discrimination is included, I think, in one of the lists in the proposals.
It is.
And yet much of this is a very distinct point of view to which there are very distinct other points of view, which I do not agree with, but they're there. And so I.
So
feel like
are you
we're a
saying
school
that,
for
like,
all of
even on B, you know, are you saying even on B, you might want to change the language on 1B? Because all board members, staff, and faculty, you know, whatever we changed it to, participating in ongoing,
Well, I would use the word encouraging rather than implying a requirement, at least. But I think that what Deneatris described is something that should be added, that the nature of the training will provide a broad spectrum so that, you know, all points of view can find a home in this training.
So can we do this? Can we approve the changes we already implemented, but know that we're going to bring it back to add to letter D to inquire, to kind of include more of a generalized description similar to what Deneatris just provided for us. I didn't capture everything she just said. So
it
I
was
don't,
really good.
is this recorded?
Yes.
So
it's
then we can
being-
go back and we can
Like-
dictate what Deneatris said.
Because I don't remember everything that I
Right.
just said either.
I'm not sure.
The recording would.
And maybe
But-
that first sentence in one, because I'm trying to go back, there's no word in here that says we're requiring.
Right,
We are saying you're committed. And
yes,
the college is committed. And then the first sentence one says the college recognizes that policy, practices, and practitioners should support the intersectionality among diverse elements,
Mhm.
which to me means
Everyone,
everybody, and of our students, and maybe the wording there should be something stronger around diversity, because to me, the diverse elements is diversity of viewpoint, diversity
Right.
of ethnicity, color, disability, all of those
agree.
things. So
Okay.
is that?
But when we
Yeah,
get to
yeah.
C is, we deleted the first sentence of C, which clearly was not broad. But when we get to C, the remaining sentence could be the kind of breadth that Deneatris was
Yeah.
describing.
So that it provides something around the diversity of viewpoints.
Yeah,
Okay, we'll have to
Okay.
go back and listen to the recording.
so we can go back and listen to the recording.
yeah, we need
So-
to change that part right there.
And then we can send an email and say, here's the recommendation. And at the
Yeah.
next policy meeting, we can add that to AB 3000.
Okay, I just made a note in there that we will listen to the recording for what Deneatris said regarding 1C.
Maybe we should
And
figure out what time it is, so you don't have to listen to the whole.
That's okay. We're gonna work it out. Don't you worry. We're gonna work it out, trustee Starter.
and I would just recommend at this point, because
5:15 or
is
5:10.
something like the Vice President of Human Resources and the Executive Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, DEI, because you're gonna have, and hopefully, I think Erica's gonna hire the position,
That's what I was thinking. for
that
that
it's
district.
not just on her, there's, actually, I don't even think.
And the
it should just
committee, we're
be
here to
on-
help.
I think it should be on the college,
Yeah,
leadership, but,
okay.
you know,
No pressure.
but can rethink that sentence altogether,
Which
maybe.
one, D? Yeah,
D,
yeah,
yeah.
I think so. I mean, it's more like an implement than a enforce.
That's what I think.
That's what you need. I mean, I don't want a student worker who isn't comfortable with what's being offered to them to be therefore fired. You know? I think that.
But we also want a
It takes you
student who's
somewhere I
able
think
to
we're not
respect
with.
the diverse elements of other students.
I know, these are all good ideas.
And I
It's
really
just
like
that some people
this
feel
part.
differently.
Whoever decided to put the italicized information at the bottom, I really like that.
Okay. And then I hate sentence or number 3 on this. I always hate this one.
Wait a minute.
Where are you
You're not
now?
Going back to.
Where it's Latino, Latine, Latinx.
I can't tell you how many policies and procedures I've been through where we've reworded these like
You know, I'm-
50 million
Yeah.
times.
Well, there's a lot of.
So for number 3, my only issue is to take out the word oppress and put historically marginalized,
Yeah, I would never use oppress.
because that's triggering to
Yeah.
some people.
It's not only
Whoa.
triggering, it's sue me. Please.
Really?
Yeah.
Gosh, I used them in my language today. I use the word oppress all the time.
I mean, I know we do that sometimes, but depending on who the speaker is and speaking on this kind of content all day long, and you keep hearing that word, it's triggering. Other than that, I'm okay with your A/X. I just was like, to me, it looks like you want to be inclusive of everyone, and I get it, because it keeps changing all the time, and so.
That's not my aid. It's like yeah, I'm not even sure what's right when it comes to that, to be candid.
So we,
We would not use Indigenous American Indian. Would we use that? I'm not sure I would.
So I have this is a challenge whenever I do my EEO report and pulling demographics and how we have them stored. We've been utilizing Indigenous, we don't utilize American Indian
Okay,
anymore at all.
okay.
Yes.
And now I'm just talking, but I'm thinking within our employee resource groups that they might be a good resource to ask what their preference would be for these descriptors. Because it would be nice to be consistent. I think if you go back and look at some of the things that I've presented, they're like all over the place.
They are.
But like having definitions, then having that driving force gives you that opportunity to be consistent and intentional with what you're doing. So maybe asking those groups what.
So you're referring to like Latino versus Chicano? Yeah.
We have our Raices program.
Yes,
Maybe that's what we check in with them.
Because they use the word Latin.
Yes. they do.
yes. And I was told that the Chicano is more of the younger version, the younger population, the older population. They're like, what is Chicano? And then they also don't like the X. They don't like Latinx. They're like, what is that? So depending on who you're talking to. So I'm okay with going back and asking for those descriptors. So does this mean that we can't approve this right now? We have to go back and do some more?
I think there's more to discuss.
I think we got some more to discuss still,
Okay.
but we're making changes as we go, and you
Okay.
guys can take a look at them again.
Okay,
Trying to take notes, make sure we get some of the conversation included.
Okay.
But I agree with the idea of going back to maybe the affinity groups, checking in the Raices. And then we can check with the AAPI.
and, okay,
Because I have a meeting with them before I leave. AAPI plus is what they call
okay.
their group.
I thought their name had people
Yeah,
just.
AAPI.
And then maybe for number 4, just be consistent with that we're putting the acronym DEIAA.
But I don't think we even need that first sentence. I mean, it's obvious this is what we're talking about. I think we should just, I think it's just so wordy. We don't need that first sentence.
Oh,
For number 4,
I agree, yes.
okay,
We could just say the superintendent, president, and collaboration. We don't even need to.
okay,
Yeah,
not a problem.
Liz, we see you.
Yes, Kindred, I have just a procedural question. This is an AP, not a BP. And
Yeah,
I'm on BPAP. So when this comes to us, are these ideas going to be come to us as if it was board policy, or how will it work? Since this is an AP, not a BP.
The board's giving their input on the AP.
Right, and so I would anticipate that we would review it as a group with suggestions, recommendations as we do from other chapter leads. And then the BPAP members would take it out to their constituency group for their read, their recommendations. And then, and we just have to decide after BPAP is finished, does it need to come back here, or can we then just send it to the board?
Well, what I'm saying, board doesn't approve APs.
Right, and
I'm
there's-
just trying to distinguish between what's in the board preview and what's not. Because we've been in difficulty with that before, so I just want to understand what the board purview is in APs as opposed to BPs.
So today what we've done is we've put the AP on and the BP. The BP is owned by the board. And we're trying to get their input and then their input on the AP, which then, as Demetrius notes, goes back to the process. But looking at them together is really useful.
I understand that part. Do you have two new board members that might not understand? There's a difference between what you present as a BP and what you can present, or what is finalized as an AP.
Yeah, and we try.
I just want them to understand that it may not come back exactly as they have wordsmithed it this way.
Thank you.
Yes,
Okay,
we-
thanks.
I would just add to that, though, that the APs are not, as a structural matter, to step outside of the BPs. And so on occasion, if the board feels that an AP is heading off in the wrong direction and not what the BP meant, we do get to kind of step in and point that out. So.
Thank you.
Because it should follow the BP.
Got it.
There has to be the connection.
I was just wondering about the wordsmithing.
Yeah, I like to make sure that we do these together.
Yeah, it's not that I don't approve of the wordsmithing, but some people may say, well, we want to change these words, or we want it this way. And just so the board members know, it might not come to them exactly the way it's presented.
Yeah, thanks, Liz. I appreciate that you're trying to make sure everybody knows that. And I know that these will take on more wordsmithing as they go through. This is
But it's
why,
not like I don't agree. It's just that I want to be sure we follow our processes so we have separation when we need to. Thanks.
thanks. And this particular one, it will take a lot of wordsmithing, I have a feeling.
Yeah, I think we will be very sensitive to
Yes.
it. So.
So there's-
And we do need to go back to the BP when we get thrown.
There's a
done
few
going through
places
these.
where we have to do the same thing, take out American Indian, take out oppressed and put in marginalized. As we go down, there's a couple more places where that needs to be.
Yeah, I can see that too. Yeah.
Okay.
So I'm just gonna make a note at the top of this, who is, having been through sort of that piece, it will take a bit to get through all of this. Okay.
Are we on 3 still?
No, well, I thought we were done with 3.
No, I wasn't.
Uh,
My first note about 3 was that it's really mostly about employment, and I'm not sure it needs to be repeated here, as opposed to what we say about employment.
That's a really good point.
And my second point was, SBCCD will ensure employee tenure from application to resignation retirement is grounded in SBCCD's racial equity goals. That's, again, not very welcoming. It's kind of like, you don't agree with us? don't come. And
So how do the other board members feel? But this language really does belong in employment.
Mhm.
You know,
So we're just taking out three all the way.
I agree. I mean, you look at the data, because we're talking about faculty members becoming tenured. Is that what we're talking about here?
we're talking about a lot of things that need to go
Yeah.
in employment.
I'm okay with, you can remove everything except for the last sentence, for me, for number 3.
the last sentence is something that we have in another BP anyway.
That belongs in employment.
Yeah, which isn't
Oh.
a BP employment. We have
Well,
diversity.
no,
the annual
the
diversity.
college will provide the
Yeah.
board with, that's just a good,
Yeah,
It's
yeah,
in
that should
our-
be in your board policy.
that's, I think, already in a board policy, which
So-
I don't like to duplicate.
So it isn't, are you saying it isn't necessary here?
Yeah, that's what I was saying, for
Any
starters.
interest?
I agree. I think all of number 3 can be eliminated. The
Okay.
college, this disaggregate the hiring data.
Mhm.
You receive that as dictated by your, the EEO plan.
Okay,
Policy that we have says that I provide that to you
okay,
every year.
all right,
Yeah,
I'm okay with that.
and, yeah, and I think the constituency groups would see that
We
too.
could do, I'm fine with that.
And my third comment, if you move it over to employment, I would question the use of the word mirroring the students and communities served, because
What number are you in?
I'm in the,
Number
still
three.
in 3.
You're still in 3,
I'm still in 3.
but we got rid of it.
I know,
But we got rid of from this, but she's saying it could go
Move it over to
somewhere else.
employment. You know, I would suggest mirroring the students and communities serves is perhaps not. I mean, we have not established the end game here. How do we know we're there? What's the purpose of this?
Because we,
In some areas, we are already over mirroring, and that may be absolutely fine, but it has to do with the purpose, and we haven't established that.
I disagree. Give me an example where we're over mirroring.
I believe we have more Black faculty than the percent of students and in the community. Which can be fine, absolutely fine. I'm just saying we haven't talked about that. So how do you know you're there? What is there?
What do we have, 3.6, Dr. Murillo?
So I would recommend that we just take this out of here and we move to employment with a whole different frame. This whole paragraph from where I sit would be bothersome. So I think just deleting it for the time being is fine, because we will have language
You have.
that is more important in the EO policy that relates to employment.
That relates to what we're
Yeah,
trying to
yeah.
address here.
This is,
Okay.
this is a duplication, and it's a mix of things that I really think we don't need in this procedure. And I think the constituency leaders, when they take a look at this, and BPAP would probably agree wholeheartedly, because this is something that belongs over in all of these things that are mentioned in here are things that belong in EEO and diversity and hiring.
Okay,
So I think it's good just to let this go.
okay. So now we're on number 4. And number 4, we already said we was gonna remove the first sentence.
Yeah, and then I'm okay with. the
And
rest
start
of it.
with the governance, how are we gonna start that sentence,
The
Trustee Stoddard?
superintendent president.
Okay,
So I would actually say, in keeping with the issue that was brought up about governance, is that the governance groups are not responsible for the college's policies. The board is responsible for the college policies. The governance gives input into the college policies.
You know what, that's right.
Is that correct?
Yeah.
Consider,
Yes.
yeah.
That's right.
Okay, so
So we should say,
technicality wise.
Thank you.
that really needs to be clear because the procedures are the superintendent president with the governance groups. The governance groups provide input into the board policies, but the board policies are the boards.
Got it.
Yep.
agree.
And so we have to clarify that sentence because that's a little bit misleading. Okay,
And
so,
I assume you're shorthanding the title of BP 3000. Because it just says anti-racism, which isn't.
Yeah,
the title.
yeah. Okay, so clarify or to indicate board's policy and governance is provides input into EPs and SP and governance are APs. Okay. All right, I made those notes.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay. Five.
Trustee Connor.
Hmm.
She had her hand raised.
Okay, I think that socioeconomic needs to appear here in the first sentence.
Which one?
College will ensure student success data is completely disaggregated to represent all racial and ethnic identities. I would also say socioeconomic.
We say it a little further down.
We
Just want
do,
to move it up, huh?
yeah.
Okay. Well, it's easy to add.
So what if we just
And
got
I-
rid of the first sentence and just went with the will ensure student data in the second?
Routinely
sentence?
assessment.
Yeah, that's a good
Routinely
idea,
assess.
Kendra.
Yeah, you can do that.
We're getting to Ellen's principle of too many words.
Yeah, just take it out.
And I would say to enable equity-focused planning, resource and development. Now I understand why anti-racist is there. But in part, I'm talking about the whole overlay of economic, socioeconomic status on all of this. Because I think, you know, I would argue that's fundamental. Poverty is fundamental to what's happening here. And if you look, for example, at distribution of wealth and the wealth gaps that exist, you find that virtually the same top 10% of white folk have 75% of the wealth of white folk. And it's probably worse now because this is older data, like 2018 or 16. You know, Musk and Bezos and those guys running around, it's worse. And as you go down here, the vast majority of the white population is in poverty. You look at the same issue with Blacks and you find roughly 75% of Black wealth is in the top 10%. And the vast majority of Blacks are in poverty. Somewhat worse poverty, but in poverty. And so to me, it's important to have that socioeconomic component because I think that is what drives people's early childhood and the chances that they have for success.
But I think that's a different policy, because this policy is called Commitment to DEIAA. So that's what we're talking about here.
Yeah,
So I mean, I agree with what you're saying. I just don't know that this policy is wrong because it's not
it's
speaking.
not
to
wrong
us.
to that, but it seems to me that if we are talking about how we budget and how we allocate our resources to help students, allocating them with an eye to their situation, their socioeconomic situation is more fundamental to their success.
But don't you think that's a different thing than what this is? I mean, this.
No,
is-
I'm thinking this is, well, I'm thinking they relate because if you're not focusing on the people who have had the fewest advantages to start with and trying to lift them up.
Yeah.
Then you're missing.
No, I agree with you. It's just, this is called Commitment to Anti-Racism, Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion, except we're gonna switch the order. You know, I mean, that's what this is called. This AP, it's called Commitment to D.
No, I know it's called that,
Yeah.
but I'm sort of trying to raise what I think is a more fundamental issue.
I
as to
appre-
whether what we're doing addresses what we want.
I appreciate everything you just said. And you're talking about social economics, that variable. Now, it is mentioned down here in this sentence. Are you saying you just want to move that to the first sentence?
I want to move it to the first sentence, but I also want to put it in our thinking because
I know, but
we don't
before-
have, I mean, we have relatively small number of Black African-American students here.
yes, I know the number has
And-
been roughly the same for the past 7 years.
Yeah, a little ups and downs. And it seems to me to be a number where if you're focused on the gaps in their success and you're focused on how can you help them, that you could do it in an individual way. You could look at them in an individual way.
I agree. How would you want the socioeconomic to be worded in the first sentence?
I think socioeconomic needs to go. Well, if we get rid of the first sentence, did we do that?
Are we
Yeah.
getting rid of the first sentence? Okay,
we did.
we're getting rid of that. Okay.
Student needs based on disaggregated data with a focus on meaningful to enable anti-racist. See, that's where I think I'm tripping over if you have it an equity-focused policy, you are looking at the whole of the circumstances, I think, of the students.
Okay,
If
so
you are having an anti-racist thing, then I think you're stopping short of really addressing what they may most need.
it's a multi-variable thing. Okay, so can we put to enable anti-racism and,
It's what it says. It says enable anti-racist and equity-focused policy planning and resource development decisions. It is an and.
so I'm just trying to understand what does trustee Croninger wanted to say?
That's why I'm, because it
You
is
think
an
it's
and.
already covering it?
I think it's already covering it. Everything you said is absolutely correct.
But I feel like that needs to be a separate policy, because I feel like this policy is already heading in one direction. And down here on item 5, start switching what we're talking about doesn't make sense to me. I mean,
It's not because we want to be more equitable in our processes here. That's why we're trying to be DEIAA focused. And I can give you an example. When we look at how we allocate the grading, not lack of others, not the grading, but when students apply for the Foundation Promise, because I volunteered. And when you give the points out, students automatically get up to 5 points if you're doing community service, if they're volunteering. But if you're working 3 jobs, you can't be out there volunteering because you're working 3 jobs. So you're already at a disadvantage for getting top points to get access to the economic resources that trustee Croninger is talking about. So it is a part of this.
It's,
Hmm.
and if you, I'm gonna argue this one too. I'm sorry, I've got to, because we titled this thing diversity, equity, inclusion, accessibility, and anti-racism, right?
Mhm.
So when you talk about equity, equity is about socioeconomic status. It's about fostering. It doesn't matter which color they are. It doesn't matter what ethnicity someone is. It's about disadvantaged
Right.
kids in our California that have just been, oh, it's horrible what happens to foster youth. So, I mean, we're talking about socioeconomic because accessibility is not just about disability.
Yep.
It's about the fact that I don't have the money to go to school.
You have to work the three
I have to
jobs.
work. I worked the 3 jobs. I could not volunteer for
Yeah,
anything.
right.
So that is something that is fundamental to the whole policy because it's accessibility.
Yeah.
So maybe we need to put it in another place higher up still.
Or in the board policy and then,
You know what I mean?
Let it be
Maybe we need to
incorporated
make it a
in
little
here.
bit more obvious that it's part of this.
I think.
So when we do so when you do the procedure, it's,
Mhm.
we had a word somewhere in this thing. When you're doing the policy, this is all intersectional.
Yeah, no, I get that.
Yes.
I know, but intersectional is also one of those words that a lot of people don't know what the heck. that
I know,
is.
but I actually like that word.
I like that word because that.
We don't use that word enough.
Yeah, I get it, but
Yeah.
you know, we're all people who know what it means,
No,
but there's
you-
a lot that don't.
You
But
brought up a
yeah.
good point. And then I had students who didn't need any financial assistance. They didn't even, they couldn't, they didn't even qualify for FAFSA. But they were the 4.0 student, they were on this team, they did volunteering, they rescued baby stills, and they are applying for all these resources, and they already received it the year prior. And so I'm thinking to myself, what about the student who has a 2.3 GPA because they couldn't have the time to study because they were working 3 jobs? So there's that constant unbalance. So yes, I think we need to make sure it's in our board policy, but having a mirror, which I know you don't like that word, statement somewhere in our AP policy, I think is key.
So I'm just wondering if we want to go back to our opening paragraph and add, you know, the socioeconomic in there because
Oh, you mean number 1 right here?
no,
Before we
I
get to the-
actually mean the very first.
Oh, up top. Okay.
Yeah. We're committed to eliminating all forms of systemic racism, sexism, classism. It's there in classism. You know,
Mm, yeah, but not-
um,
not clearly.
has.
The problem with that sentence is it's eliminating, you don't, well, do you eliminate socioeconomic?
I mean, we're not gonna be able to eliminate social economic, that's
No.
what, that's right out beyond. our-
Ameliorate socioeconomic
We
disadvantages.
will
You can do
implement
that.
practices and strategies that support racial equity, culture inclusive, and dismantle racism. But I think we could add something in there. We will implement practices and strategies that support racial equity, cultural inclusivity,
Social economic stability,
or something like that.
because we are implementing practices and strategies that will
Yeah.
support.
Yeah, social, economic, I want to say fairness, but that's not.
No,
really
you're not,
the
we're
word,
not
yeah.
gonna be able to do that.
Well, you're a socialist.
So, come on, we're nonpartisan. Okay, social economic stability.
Well, it's not really stability.
Well, yeah,
Social, economic,
And support racial equity, anti.
social, economic, come on, we need a word,
Yeah, I'm looking, I'm reading.
Social and economic, mobility?
Socioeconomic mobility.
I like that.
Yeah, that has grounded research.
And that's actually, I know it's not agenda size, but thank you for bringing that up, trustee Croninger, because that's on my to-do list. I need to circle back about, about that
So
Point
can I
system.
make a suggestion to
Mhm.
you? We got off on the procedure when I really actually feel like we should get this policy and let the BPAP wrestle with the procedure a little bit more.
Okay,
Do you have a BP for this one?
Yeah.
There is a BP, it's in the.
it's the next
That's
document.
the next one, okay.
Yeah,
Because if you get that one set, then the other one you'll be able to flow it better. And I think it would. We're
Okay.
spending a lot of time on the procedure that's gonna go to BPAP,
okay,
when your board policy really should kind of more focus you.
Okay, but there's just one thing I want to say about this.
Okay, well, we're gonna.
next time put BP policies first on the agenda.
Well, I was
materials.
trying.
I know, but wait, I just have one thing I want to say. Number 7, the college will ensure programs are prioritizing the needs of the diverse students on campus. Okay. Program evaluations will focus on equity and anti-racism. To me, I don't like the word focus there. I would rather have it say
Include,
because. there's
we are
a lot of
including
things
it,
to focus
yes.
on.
Yes, include,
Yes.
I
Thank you.
think include, yep, yeah.
Okay. And
Okay, anything else that is a major on this one?
well, the last sentence of 5 that we were looking at was talking about, and this, I think, circles back to what I was saying. It says college will review quantitative, qualitative data, identify, dismantle barriers to increase completion for all students with an emphasis on, and then we go through the various ethnicity.
Yeah.
And that's it. All historically oppressed people of color. We're not dealing with the socioeconomic at all there. So,
I will
you know,
note
that
a
will
lack of
include-
socioeconomic on that.
Okay,
yeah, because they have barriers.
I
Let's
actually
talk
think
about it.
BPAP can get a real sense of where you are going,
okay,
with your. I think having your comments on the BP was really important to get.
All
from
right,
them.
so where are we now?
So can we go back to BP 3000
sure.
and see if we can get
3,000.
that one sort of sorted? So maybe this could go to BPAP and
Mhm.
they could start looking at it. So you can make.
It was the
some
next,
Okay, I have a first sentence comment.
go ahead.
I am uncomfortable with board policies that say employees are doing X.
What
Other
sentence
than-
are you talking about?
In this sense,
Oh,
you know, it says
That-
working
oh,
together.
yeah, good point, yes. It
That
should
not
say. board.
employees are committed. I mean, the board can be committed. These are board policies.
Yep.
We don't step beyond that.
okay, so you want to take out and employees?
Yeah.
Okay,
Any
Number
disagreement?
on what
I'm
page?
fine.
The board policy
3,000?
3000.
It'll say BP
3000.
3,000 at the top.
I think I've passed. it.
It's the very first one.
Ah,
It's before AP.
Maybe I'll find it.
As they always are.
Oh, they were.
That's
No, I
Ah,
missed
I
it.
found it.
Okay, and what we did originally, we started with, was we actually included working together to eliminate institutional and systemic
Yes.
racism, right,
Thank
out of the
you.
institutional.
Thank you.
And now trustee Croninger has recommended we get rid of and employees.
Right.
The
The title is going to be the DEI accessibility and
I
anti-racism.
have that changed.
Thank you.
And could we add at the end of it, for all students?
The first sentence of the first paragraph, I mean, the last
Second
sentence.
sentence, actually. Well, is it? No, it's the only sentence of the first paragraph. For all students. I mean, that to me circles back to we mean everybody. We don't just mean
And
a
personal
certain
for
type
all
of
students.
person.
Well, you want to add for all students, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Is that agreeable with it?
I'm happy with that.
Okay. All right. Sentence number 2, or paragraph number 2.
I'm fine.
I'm okay, except I sort of wonder whether districts have morals. But anyway,
You want to do a committed obligation instead of moral?
Want to do the board?
yeah,
The
I
board,
just sort of question a broad statement of morality in that context.
we could do commitment.
Now, the district is committed to implement. Is that what you're thinking?
You don't like moral?
Yeah.
Are you
controlling the screen?
to
not
implement.
liking moral obligation?
Can we open up this BP for me, please? I didn't have a copy.
Not this one, we want.
Yeah, you wanna go to
3,000.
agenda items?
We're still on 3,000.
Thank
Agenda-
you. It's,
It's-
you're right.
it's-
You can open it up. I just want to be able to look at it while you all are talking.
BP.
BP, thank you so much. I apologize. I totally messed that one up. I don't.
Okay. So Marcia, are you saying you don't like moral obligation? Is that what
No,
you
it just
said?
feels weird to me for an institution. So I would, yeah, the district is committed to implementing. Would make more sense to me.
Mhm.
Okay.
Could we say the district commits? Rather than is committed, because is committed is passive.
Okay, the district commits.
Okay,
District commits to,
more action.
Got it.
I got it.
Now, the third paragraph, I thought you told me not to use ableism. And I just would take that out. I mean,
It's, yes, we'll use the
think it's
appropriate
additive.
disabled.
well, no, I mean, the whole paragraph I would actually take out.
We take the whole paragraph.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's,
For one thing, I think it's sort of repetitive. For another, it seems. I don't know, it seems to me to have that same problem of pushing people away, not recognizing socioeconomic. I don't know.
and we don't.
I'm okay with taking out that second paragraph.
Okay, anybody want it? I
right with it.
actually think using BIPOC now has not become.
I never did like that, but it's not about me. I'm okay with taking that because we kind of already said this.
Okay,
And we have more policies of saying it.
Yeah.
we do.
so
Okay.
last paragraph, let's just say SBCCD commits.
And then the fact that we have SBCCD is
Yeah, we gotta be.
commits, makes it consistent with
Yeah.
the second paragraph.
Well, it actually needs to be the district, because we rarely use SBCCD and we
Okay,
keep, like.
let's
you
do the
like
district. We
language
like,
the same.
yep, the
That should
district,
be absolutely.
the
same.
district. The district.
It commits, right?
Uh-huh.
Okay.
To
Yeah.
achieving
There
racial
we go.
equity and eradicating all forms of racism. So do you want to say commits to achieving racial equity and promoting
Socioeconomic mobility.
social and economic? Yeah, why don't we do that?
Okay, so we are
Okay, so we're-
achieving racial equity,
And promoting,
comma.
eradicating all forms of racism and promoting.
You can't put promoting it before the, and where the while is, because it's telling you what they are eradicating.
We're still saying things like dismantle,
Yeah.
eradicate.
Yeah, I
So
know.
why don't we say to achieving racial equity and socioeconomic
Mobility,
mobility?
Yeah. Okay,
Because that's the upfront positive,
Uh-huh.
piece, right?
yeah,
And then that's comma, and then you get into
Eradicate.
and eradicating all forms. So you go to the getting rid of the stuff that's.
so
that's good.
can I make a, while dismantling anti-blackness, comma, like, can we put anti-blackness in there somewhere? If you,
Slash colors.
slash colorism,
Okay, can we say that policies that perpetuate anti-blackness, colorism?
Yeah,
and
yeah,
Yes.
yeah, that's what it
Yes.
fits.
All right, we're starting to get a rhythm now.
just as we're about to come to a close in 7 minutes.
Takes time to warm up. But
No.
when you're firing, you're
That's the way
firing.
it worked on resolution 18.
Yes,
right?
it did.
Oh, man.
You still feel the aftermath of resolution 18?
was-
That's a good feeling.
That was intense.
That's a, that's,
It
That
was good
was.
though. It was actually very good. very collaborative.
That kind of work, that's what it kind of does that to you. Yeah,
Okay,
okay.
so we
So-
got that.
So the next sentence needs its socioeconomic support as well.
Yeah, we gotta get that socioeconomic mobility. I thought we put that in there already. Trustee
did.
Cloninger, we put in
We
social,
put it in the, well, we are being repetitive here.
okay, we can be, okay.
I mean, I don't mind being less repetitive for sure, but
I'm,
I mean, I feel.
I'm all for it.
There's a
Where-
lot of repetition.
Where do you want us to put it? Cause it starts, you're talking about the sentence that start with the district.
Well, we were putting it in the first sentence, but then the
Yes.
second sentence is basically listing stuff all over again.
It gets into greater detail.
You mean where it starts with the district will support that sentence?
Right, right.
Okay, will support
It
action.
seems like maybe that's overkill.
Okay, take out will and say the district supports,
Okay, because we like to be action
we
oriented.
want to be active.
Okay,
The district supports action-oriented and thoughtful, goal-focused, anti-racist, innovative approaches. Blah, blue, blah, blue.
I know, that's, yeah, I think we.
I don't think we need to say anti-racist there because we're
I don't think
reducing
we need-
bias.
yeah.
Yeah, so
Well,
thoughtful,
anti-racist.
goal-focused, innovative.
and we're already
approaches,
saying racism here after the word bias, so you can
Yeah.
take out,
Anti-racist.
you could put will support action oriented and thoughtful, innovative approaches, take out goal focus. Anti-racist.
Right,
I agree.
Innovative
That
approaches
makes that much
to
better.
reducing bias,
Bias,
racism,
racism,
discrimination,
discrimination.
supporting diversity and inclusion, representing historically marginalized students, staff, and faculty in all areas of the campus while synchronously recognizing, responding to, and readdressing barriers that take out,
We could just
we don't need to
drop
do
off.
oppress people.
I mean, you need a breath to finish that.
My breath is oppressed.
Yeah, what if you just ended after faculty?
Yes,
Can we try that? Let's.
Did we get socioeconomic in there?
Not yet, but we could get it in there if we could get.
Okay.
If we could put a
Okay, here we-
period.
this is
after
what we have right now.
faculty.
The district commits to achieving racial equity and social economic mobility and eradicating all forms of racism, structural, institutional, individual, while dismantling practices, process, and policies that perpetuate any inequity and racism for the communities we serve. I think
Can I
that's good.
stop you for a minute?
yes, yes,
Yeah.
Before you say inequity, we have anti-blackness colorism.
yes, we do.
Oh, okay, right.
Okay.
Yeah,
now
I did have it. I just didn't.
keep
say
going.
Forgot
it.
that.
I just
Okay.
want to make sure we're all in agreement.
We are.
The district supports action-oriented and thoughtful, innovative approaches to reducing bias, racism, and discrimination.
We're repeating ourselves.
Yes,
Can we just talk about the socioeconomic instead of, can we just say the district supports action-oriented and thoughtful, innovative approaches to increasing socioeconomic mobility?
Oh, I like that. And reducing bias. We could.
Well, I mean, we kind of already talked about,
All right.
increasing social, increasing
Socioeconomic.
social economic mobility that historically impacts marginalized students, staff, and faculty? Can we do that? Because that ties into the COLA thing that we just approved, right?
Okay, trustee Gallimore, let's go back and
Say it
go.
again.
So let me tell you what I've got. The district supports action-oriented and thoughtful, innovative approaches to increasing socioeconomic
Mobility
mobility. That, and I'm sorry, I lost you past that.
that historically impacts marginalized students, staff, and faculty in all areas of campus life, period. Because then that sentence is just dedicated to the social economic.
Do you mean that impacts historically marginalized, or do you mean that historically impacts marginalized? Which one do you mean? You don't.
It's good either way.
Okay.
Because that is what we're doing.
So what do you guys think? I'm liking that sentence.
I'm liking that
Because it really
sentence.
brings in the socioeconomic mobility
Yeah.
to our historically minoritized students.
Our
and
socially
And staff.
And that-
economic, we want to increase the socioeconomic mobility for the students, the staff and faculty who've been historically marginalized or marginalized historically. Okay.
I think historically, well.
It is historically marginalized,
Right,
but if
or
Trustee started once.
Oh, I don't care. I just, I don't care.
Okay, I'm just waiting. Can I get rid of the rest of the sentence?
I don't
Yeah.
know if we want. I mean, there is a huge connection between historically being poor and staying poor. But
Historically marginalized.
you're really not saying. You're asking what is their situation now as they come to us as a student? Are they working those 3 jobs or are they pretty well off and?
But we're not just talking about students now, we're talking about students, staff and faculty.
Yeah,
You're talking about the conditions that
but
put them where they are.
employees, not just faculty, actually, we should be talking. about
Okay, we
employees.
could put the word employees in there.
Yeah,
I put students, faculty and staff.
but maybe we should go to employees.
I'm just thinking of the good work we just did with the COLA thing, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So, and we just got finished talking about the students who have to work 3 jobs and they can't join, our student clubs and stuff because they're working 3 jobs.
Right.
So, and I'm highlighting the socioeconomic impact we want to make in our district and give it more of a focus, highlight to your point. I think
Yeah.
that is,
So I think if we're really trying to describe this, I think using, okay, it's just my thinking at the moment. Increasing socioeconomic mobility that impacts historically marginalized students and employees, because you're describing the group of people that have been historically marginalized.
yes.
I mean, we use that as it's basically a proxy for race and ethnicity.
And because it's,
Well, see,
but the thing is,
not a total problem.
is that what we
But it-
want to say?
But
well, you do, because we don't talk about it enough that this is historic. And because of that, it's still happening. That's why we have institutionalized and systemic racism.
Sure, sure.
And because of policies or how hiring practices, we're trying to fix all of those things, so we're not perpetuating it as much anymore. And so we're highlighting that.
How about historically and currently marginalized?
Okay,
Because,
good.
our,
But I just want to draw attention
our
to the
community
time.
has been marginalizing people pretty quickly.
Yes, but I just want to go on a side note. It is 6 o'clock.
Yes, and I have,
And this was slotted from 4 to 6.
yes, I know.
Thank you.
Believe that?
I'm just bringing attention to
I
that.
do need to leave in a minute, so.
So I think it's a good idea to leave after 2 hours too, because then you start becoming. But could we try to get through the last 2 paragraphs to at
Yes,
least?
Oh,
I want
Could
to,
we just really try to
Let's
get some
try.
input on those?
okay,
it depends on trustee Croninger.
yeah, top sentence on the next page, I don't like that.
Okay, can I was gonna get rid of the rest of that whole
So
paragraph.
I'm okay with getting rid of the rest of the whole paragraph.
I think the last 2 paragraphs sound very fine.
Last 2, well, the last one is just cross-reference, the last.
The board holds itself and all college employees
I don't
accountable.
think-
That's good.
No, I don't, again, I don't think board policies
Oh, I see. You don't
do
want
that
holds itself
And
and.
all,
that way.
because
Hmm.
I can hold myself,
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm taking out college employees.
and should it be the district and not the board? For consistency, if we're saying the district in the other paragraphs?
But then the district holds who? It's the district.
Oh,
Yes,
okay.
District means the legal entity of the college.
Okay,
Board is
okay.
the board. You
This-
should really
I-
I
consider.
think it should say
how
the
you-
board holds
Okay.
itself
What it's
accountable.
adding here. We have a policy that says what we're gonna do,
Uh-huh.
and
holds itself accountable to adhering to board policies.
Well, that's a whole different thing. That's the ethics.
No, I,
2715.
Yeah,
I can
That's
recite it to you now.
Well, then we should just take out that little,
I would just take that sentence.
I'm okay with taking it out.
All right, cool.
so we're
Okay,
not
all
holding
right.
ourselves accountable?
Accountable.
we are holding ourselves accountable in the board policy 2715.
Oh, okay,
You have board policy 2715.
okay,
The
I got it.
superintendent will, this is a standard statement, will establish in accordance with this policy such plans and procedures that may be necessary to accomplish its purpose and intent. Plans and procedures established will include a clear accountability for oversight and actions and will include disaggregated metrics for assessment.
Mhm.
The college-wide anti-racist and equity actions will be reviewed semi-annually by the board.
Okay, I'm happy. I'm okay with all of that.
Well,
Trustee manager?
We're repeating the narrower focus without the socioeconomic, though.
Well, we do say equity.
I know.
She wants social, where would you like for us to put that?
Actually, it is equity.
Yeah, I agree with that, but I'm just wondering, what about, the board will receive a semi-annual report on progress under this policy? And that just is the whole thing.
Well, I'll just, okay, wait a minute.
So take out
Yeah.
anti-racist
You know,
and equity actions and put in the board will?
Yeah, the board will receive I don't know whether it should be semi-annual. Do you think it should be annual?
I would recommend with the amount of
More than
things you
one?
guys want at this point in time, an annual.
That's what I thought. you
Like-
meant.
An
annual-
You have a lot of stuff on your list.
Yes. Annual report on progress under
board-
this policy,
The board will review an annual report on this policy.
on progress under this policy.
So,
What about impact?
Well, that would be progress. Impact is,
so Kindred, once the.
No, 'cause progress-
Put in, you'll send it out to us.
Progress can be,
You can have a chance. of-
progress can be, we're doing these actions, but we don't really see the impact.
We'll send it over to.
They could say, we, this many people did this training,
metric.
this, right, but it's not saying what impact are we seeing coming out of that?
Okay.
So,
Impact
so-
metrics, metrics for.
All right, so what have we decided then?
The board will receive a annual report on progress and impact.
Or, and data on impacts. It's like data.
Disaggregated data.
Okay, wait a minute, report on progress and impact
Yes.
of this policy, right?
Measurable impacts? You like that?
This has been a great meeting. Yes. This is,
Hey, well, at least we got this in a place where
we're moving in the right
we can
direction.
actually do something with it.
Yes.
So that would be nice. I would really.
I
like
was
that.
reading, it. I said, where did they get, who did this? Why was I included?
This was a while before you got here,
Where
and
did I get an email about this?
I think it's in a much better place right now. And then it will help drive the procedure a little more.
Absolutely. And thank you. And I get Liz's point even more clear now. I'm like, yeah, I was like, where's the BP? I hadn't seen it. I must have just.
Yeah, because the BP is brand
Right
new.
there.
Oh,
This is something that was presented at the CCC conference when I think it was trustee Everett, trustee Gallardo and I.
So this was 3 years ago?
No, it was a year ago, last May.
Okay.
And they had this whole panel on policies and anti-racism and inclusion and accessibility. And so we came back with all of this
Yes.
Ready to go.
and got our wind blown out of us when we got to the policy and procedure committee.
oh, I see.
But this is good. This is good.
So
Who
I
was
think
on
we're in
the
a better
committee at that
place.
time?
We, see, was it you? It was trustee Croninger,
Well,
vice
we had a
president.
very different. If you're thinking of what I called the essay, it was like 4 pages.
Are we still
Okay.
recorded or are we done?
Good question.
I think we're done.
Okay, I'm going until you tell me no, so.
Any questions, anybody? Did you have fun? as
Thank
much fun
you.
as we did. Thank you for being here.
Yes,
Yeah,
thank you.
I see no hands raised.
Nope.
Okay, I have company